Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second week of the course, in which we look at primarily the NSPE Code of Ethics, the National Society of Professional Engineers Code of Ethics, and a couple of cases that the Board of Ethical Review of the NSPE has decided. First of all, I'd like to say that this week kind of tells you why you're here or why you're taking this course, I think. You're taking this course because engineering is considered not uncontroversially and not universally, but generally considered to be a profession. And this course is a course in professional ethics, at least as I understand it. It's not a course in vocational ethics or ethics of technology, or it's a professional ethics course. That is, you are taking this course for the same reason that a doctor might take a course in medical ethics. A lawyer might be required to take a course in legal ethics. You, as an engineer, are entering into what is, again, not uncontroversially, but generally considered to be a profession. And it's thought that professionals, there's a whole range of issues, ethical issues, that emerge when one is recognized as being a professional in the sense of a member of a profession. The word professional in the English language has different senses, and they're all valid, legitimate. But the sense in which we, or in a course such as this, the sense that is applicable to being the meaning of being a professional, means a professional in the sense of a member of a profession. Of course, being professional can mean simply doing something for money as opposed to being an amateur. There are professional athletes and professional musicians and professional actors, and there are, that's perfectly valid thing to call somebody a professional in that sense, but they're not professionals in the sense of being a member of a profession. There's no profession called athletics or acting. Those are jobs or vocations or things that people do. They're not professions. Well, what is a profession? Well, I mean, that's kind of what the week is about to some degree. Or next week, really, we'll be looking into that more when we look at Sighart and Downey's essay. But we might as well start talking about that now. I mean, one of the things that goes into being a member of a profession is that there is either an official or unofficial code of ethics that goes along with it. And there are many codes for engineering because there's so many engineering societies. The NSPE is the closest thing that I know of an umbrella organization for engineers. Of course, it's National Society of Professional Engineers, so that it is really for PEs, I guess. It encourages people to get their licensing to be a licensed professional engineer. But my understanding is that the code is not specifically for PEs. The NSPE code is meant to apply to anybody who calls himself and is legitimated by education and whatever else practice as an engineer. So the notion is that this applies to you as soon as you graduate. You may think that it applies to you in your co-ops too. And that's a little murky because you haven't finished your education. In any case, it is a code of ethics, which is very similar to other codes that you'll see in the other engineering societies, particularly the fields, mechanical, electrical, and civil. But that's another issue. Maybe we'll talk about that at some point. The special place of civil engineering. And none of you are civil engineers, as far as I know, because the civil engineers at Drexel are not required to take this course. Their ethics requirement is handled within the School of Civil Engineering, which is what it is. You can find out for yourself about that. In any case, the next couple of weeks, I guess, we'll be looking into the issue of what it means to be a professional engineer, and taking a look at the code of ethics, and also some cases, which when we'll look at further cases from the Board of Ethical Review, which is this incredibly wonderful resource that the NSPE provides, because they have this Board of Ethical Review. As you'll see, they look at particular cases involving ethical issues that arise in particular situations for engineers, and they make a decision based upon the code of whether the engineer in question actually did do something unethical. If you look at the Code of Ethics, it's really quite a remarkable document, because it wasn't just sort of made up at once. It's gone through different permutations over the decades. I think codes of ethics in one way or another have been around for a long time for engineers. I think in America, at least, the first codes were developed around the turn of the century. And by that I mean the turn into the 20th century, not the 21st century. And they changed over the years as the self-awareness of the profession of engineering changed. Certainly became more public-spirited. Engineering codes basically used to be codes about the limits of your ethical behavior with regard to other engineers and with regard to your clients. The consciousness changed in the 20th century, at least in America, to put the focus more on the responsibility of engineers to the public. And so we have the first canon, which we'll look into hopefully in some depth later in the course. The first canon, engineers shall hold in the practice of engineering such and such, shall hold paramount the health, safety, and welfare of the public. That is the heart and soul of engineering ethics. As we'll see, it is also a very problematic and difficult part of engineering ethics. No other profession has, as far as I know, has such a principle. Doctors and lawyers have their primary loyalty and moral obligations to their clients or patients. Engineers are the only profession that I know of that have an ethical obligation to the world at large. Because if you think about what the public means, it means everybody who's affected by what the engineer does. As we'll see, there are some internal problems that emerge if you look at the first six canons. The first canon, the hold paramount canon, seems to be in some tension with the fourth canon, and that will be a subject of the course later on. Fourth canon says that you must be a faithful agent and trustee of your client and employer, or employer. And that brings it with it some real difficulties, which we'll deal with. But the code itself covers many other things. And I said it wasn't made up sort of at once. If you look at the code, everything that's in the code is there for a reason, right? Everything is in the code because there have been problems over the decades where engineers have done things or gotten involved in things that have raised ethical complaint, and so they've dealt with them in the code. They try to cover them in the code. Of course, not everything can be covered in a code of ethics, but one imagines that, for instance, the rules about giving contributions in order to get work, that they're there because engineers have done that, and we'll deal a little bit with that at the end of the course when we look at pay to play and practice of engineering. So what I'd like you to do this week is to look over the code, read it over. I mean, it's hard to read a code of ethics cold, but at least look at the first six canons and try to get an idea of how the code is actually structured. And read the two cases, case 04-6 and case 1-10. Those numbers just mean the case number for the year. Like say case 04-6, I believe it is 2004, the sixth case that they dealt with or something like that. That's what those numbers mean. These are not life and death cases, and I don't like starting with life and death cases. These are much less severe, let's say, than the VW case, which is a huge ethical stink. These are little things. BER case 04-6 deals with somebody who said something in public that they probably shouldn't have said. And 1-10 deals with whether or not somebody took a trip on their prospective employer's dime when they maybe shouldn't have. But I like starting small. Okay, so this is incredibly interesting. Participate in the discussion board. That's all you need to do this week, and we'll talk about it.